Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wasn't really planning on doing this, but I'm going to make a second off-season preview video today. This one for the Detroit Pistons. I had a lot of fun making the Hawks one earlier, so I decided that I might as well just do the Pistons today too. I think this will be a short one because this team is kind of straightforward with what their off-season is going to look like. I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of action, just because a lot of their players are either young, bad, or on bigger contracts than they're worth, so they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. Their coach is Dwayne Casey. I think he's solid. He definitely helped get the Raptors to a point where they were championship contenders, and then Nick Nurse was just that championship coach for that organization. So I definitely think Dwayne Casey can be a good coach for the Pistons for the next couple of years and get them to where they're a playoff team. In the draft, they have the 7th pick, and I've been seeing a lot of people thinking Killian Hayes will go to the Pistons, and I love Killian. I think he's probably the most surefire thing in the draft, maybe the entire draft. I think he's going to be a really good point guard. He could be an all-star one day. If I had the number 1 pick, I would be considering him because I think that he's probably a better player than LaMelo and Anthony Edwards right now. I think he still has a lot of room to grow, and he's only 18. There's a lot of concern about him being left-hand dominant, and he might not be able to use his right hand much, but from everything I've read, people don't seem real concerned about it, and I just think this guy has a tremendous feel for the game. He's a good defender, not like LaMelo, where he just gets lucky with jumping in and stealing passes and stuff. He's actually a good defender who can move his feet. He was playing in a competitive league with Ulm, which was his French team. I just could go on and on about this guy. I think that he's going to be a really, really good player, and I can't believe that people think that he's going to be falling all the way down into the mid to late lottery, because I view him as one of the best players in the draft. And I think that if he goes to the Pistons, like a lot of people are mocking him too, I think that they will have found their centerpiece for a rebuild, because I think that this guy is special and he's as good a player as any in this draft. So the Pistons would be really lucky to get him, and it looks like they will based off of a lot of people's opinions. If he goes earlier, or for some reason they don't like him, I mean, obviously he's got some flaws, but I feel very strongly that he's going to be a good player. But if they want to go in another direction, Onyeka Okongwu will probably be available here, and, well, potentially could be available here, I should say. I think that he could also go to Cleveland at 5, or maybe Charlotte at 3, maybe the Bulls take him at 4. He's a good player, and another guy that could slip in the draft as a really good player, and the Pistons would be lucky to get him here at 7 again. So if they have an option between Hayes and Okongwu, I would take Hayes, but I think that either way they're getting a good player. If they don't like either of those two, Devin Vassell and Tyrese Halliburton are both solid picks in this area. 3-and-D players who aren't necessarily superstars, but next year's draft has plenty of those that the Pistons, quite frankly, might be the worst team in the league, so they could have a pretty good pick next year. And it wouldn't surprise me if they take a role player this year and look to acquire some guys that they can just good young players. But if Hayes or Okongwu is on the board, I definitely think they should take one of those guys. In terms of trades, they could possibly trade up. I know that a lot of people wanted this team to end up drafting LaMelo Ball just so that he could have his own team right away, considering they don't really have a star right now. So maybe like Luke Kennard, Svi Mikhailuk, and 7 gets them up to 1 or 2, but I don't know. And I think that 7's a pretty a pretty good spot in this draft because they can get some really high quality players here. Free agency, outgoing, they have Christian Wood, who is a player they need to bring back. He was kind of a diamond in the rough for them that they just kind of signed randomly this season. He's bounced around the league a lot, and he's always been a really productive player, but he just never really found a home, and Detroit could possibly be that home for him, and he could be a very good player in this league, as he's shown with some solid rebounding and points numbers in not super big minutes. So they should definitely focus on bringing him back. That should be their first focus in free agency. Other outgoing free agents they have are John Henson, Brandon Knight, Langston Galloway. Role players, but nobody who's really gonna tilt the scales too far in either direction. In terms of targets, definitely Christian Wood is the most important guy for them to bring back. Outside of him, they're a team I could see taking a shot at a Josh Jackson or Harry Giles. Just a player that it didn't really work for in his first couple years in the league, but was drafted really high and still has potential to become a really good player. Otherwise, maybe this could be a falling place for Malik Beasley or Bogdanovic if their respected teams don't decide not to bring them back. This could be a spot for them. And in terms of a potential rotation at point guard, I've got this assuming they draft Killian Hayes, because it sounds like a lot of people think they're going to be. Killian's at the point guard, Luke Kennard's the 2, Svi Mikhailuk is the 3, Blake Griffin the 4, Christian Wood the 5, Derrick Rose off the bench. This is assuming they don't trade him. I think maybe it would be a good idea because they could probably get a first-round pick from a lot of teams for Derrick Rose. However, they recently said that they view him as a long-term piece for their organization, so I'm not super certain that they will end up trading him. All depends on what the new general manager they recently signed decides that he wants to do. I think Sekou Doumbouya is another bench player for them, and then maybe John Henson or Brandon Knight if they re-sign one of those guys. Langston Galloway maybe. Otherwise, Josh Jackson could be a rotation player if they take that route and sign a prospect who is a restricted free agent and coax them away from their current team. So that could be interesting. Really, I wasn't sure what to put down for this team's potential bench rotation because it's hard to tell. They have a lot of players coming off the books. I forgot about Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown will probably be a bench player for them as a guard who can play a bit of point, but is usually more of a 2. Can maybe play on the wing a little bit. Some questions for this team moving forward. Will they be the worst team in the league? It's certainly possible, but Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose are both good players, and if they view these two as pillars of the organization, then they probably won't trade them, and that will at least make this team respectable and allow them to get to maybe 30 to 35 wins probably. Will they trade D-Rose? I kind of hope so because I'd like to see him on a contender. I definitely think he could help a lot of teams, including my Milwaukee Bucks, as a upgrade over George Hill as a bench point guard who can score. Will they be able to trade Blake? That's a definite no, in my opinion. His contract is just too big. The injury concerns are there, and who knows what kind of player he is. We didn't get to see much of him this year, so maybe if he can prove that he can be Blake Griffin of old, they could trade him at the deadline, but I'm not certain about that. Yeah, definitely interesting team. Like I said, I think they have kind of a straightforward offseason ahead of them. Draft a good player in the draft. Keep Christian Wood around in free agency. Sign some role players / prospects around them. And hopefully enter the season in a rebuild with maybe a Derrick Rose or Blake Griffin trade thrown in there too. And also continue to develop the young players in Luke Kennard, Christian Wood, Sekou Doumbouya, Bruce Brown, Svi Mikhailuk, try to continue to develop those guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to be it for me. I've covered all the topics that I wanted to cover with this team. Definitely interesting, and I hope they get Killian Hayes because I think he's going to be special, and this is a spot where he could really show that off because they don't have a whole lot going on, and he could be one of their best players right off the bat. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, drop a comment on what you feel about the Detroit Pistons' future. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you all again very soon.